The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to discuss looking at realistic virtual experiences on your website so home buyers can make decisions from the comfort and safety of their own home. Since the pandemic hit, this has been the most prevalent than ever. I'll show you how to make sample sites and show you how the images were made for that site. And I just want to say welcome to so many people. I recognize many names that I've met in person, and I thank you for taking your time out of your busy days to be here. I think this is a very important topic as everything is going virtual. And even after the pandemic, I think this is going to continue in a big way. You need to have that virtual presence on your website to show off to your clients. So first of all, I want to look at some stats to understand the trend for online purchases for homes. Real estate listings are down 46% compared to the first quarter of 2019. That is something that is expected because of the pandemic, of course. People don't want you in their home. They're not going to list their home. And people don't want to go into other people's homes to be able to view them. So existing home sales are very low at this time. That sets the stage for a great market for new home purchases to happen. So with online creativity, we have to make sure that we have that available to them. Because looking at this second stat, 99% of millennials and 90% of baby boomers search websites for homes. That's a huge stat. So you want to make sure that you have the visuals on your website to provide them so they can do that search. You may remember the home of the week. In some cases, it still occurs in newspapers, but this was big. It was huge. I know personally, I loved this portion of the newspaper. I have 3 older brothers, and they would run for the sports section of the newspaper or the cartoons, but I would run for the home of the week, and I would tear apart the building and take that little floor plan that's there and rebuild it to something that I thought might be a little bit better. That was big back then, but now we need to do something different because this just doesn't work anymore. People are very visual, people are online, and they're looking for things. So I want to do a poll. Do you currently offer interactive views on your website? So in your GoToMeeting panel on the right, you will see a poll come up. So the question is, do you currently offer interactive views? Yes, no, or we want to start. So if you wouldn't mind putting in your answers there, I'll leave that just for a few moments so everybody can get their views in, and then we'll go from there and see where everybody's sitting at this point. So right now, looking at it, 80% say no, 20% say they want to start, and we're slipping to 70. Okay, so I think we're going to stop there at 71% say no, 0% say yes, and 29% say we want to start. So how do you get started, and how do you do that then? Because a lot of you don't have that yet. So I'm just going to manage that poll and close that poll off to end that off for us. So let me just make that happen for us and close the poll. Okay, so now we're looking at how do we build that then? How do we replicate that experience that we used to have in the home of the week on our websites so people have a great experience? Visiting a show home in person is a great experience. You get to go through and see the details of the home. You get to evaluate the builder on their craftsmanship. So we want to replicate that in a virtual world when they can't tour, or so that they can tour at their own leisure. So if they're wanting to view something at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, which is one of the most prevalent times to search for homes, they can do that. They don't have to worry about your show floor being open. So I'm just going to slip out to our website where I have built a version of a site. So this is an example site that we've created that looks at an online experience. And there's many different things here that I think are important if you're building out your own visual site for people to search for homes. Up at the very top, you'll see that there's a search item. Searching is important, and it's a great idea, especially if you have lots of plans to offer. You want to minimize all of the different plans and allow them to personalize what type of home they're looking for. So I put in here pricing. I just left that as, a placeholder in there, but you could have pricing associated to all of your plans. The cost to build this house would be X amount of dollars, depending on where it's being built. The number of bathrooms that they're looking for, the number of bedrooms that they're looking for, and the type. So an example, if I say I want to do a 2-story and hit search, I'm brought down to just the 2 that I have. And then if I say I want to change that to a bungalow, I can search again, and then I have just that one bungalow. It allows your home buyer, especially when you have many different types, to search through and find exactly what they want. Personalize it for them. And when you're doing that, and when you're creating that experience-based purchase, you want to engage them and give them that virtual experience to start. An experience that is so good or better that you are currently offering on your on-site model homes that you have. In our examples, we've set that elevation, that front elevation of the home, as the first view of the home. And it's really important to get that first impression right. Take time when you're building the models, and we'll go over this. I am going to go over building these models out. Take time to add in that little bit of landscaping that you see there. Put in the trees. Make it look like a home, not just a house that's plunked down on a blank background. Take that extra time so they feel like it's personalized for them and they get engaged with that plan. And when they make their selection and click on that plan, so I'm going to click on the Declan, that's when Google Analytics starts to take over for you. You're going to find out just how many people came to the Declan versus all of your other plans. So then you can start to say, okay, this plan is my most popular plan. I should be profiling it more. And then you might have plans, stock plans that nobody picks on. Do they not pick on it because the front elevation that you've created isn't appealing? Maybe you need to revisit that and create a new front elevation. And when you do launch it with a new front elevation, is it picked more now? Or another test that you can do is maybe it has options that people don't want anymore. So maybe if it was only 1 bedroom, or maybe it was 5 bedrooms, maybe the market isn't looking for that type of plan anymore. So you should revisit it as well. When you're in here, you'll notice that we have little plus signs in all the rooms that you can visit. So when they make my selection and go into here, and I'm going to come in here and click on this one right at the front entrance, they can instantly see what it's going to look like when they walk in the front doorway of that home. I'm going to try to go slowly while I'm panning through these 360 views. I realize the whole world is on the internet right now, and your connection might be slower. So these 360s, all I'm doing is holding down my left mouse button, and I can pan around and see exactly what it's going to look like when I walk in to that home. You'll notice up here in the upper right, we have share. Share is very important. We know that 2/3 of millennials will not make a choice and a purchase unless they get someone else's opinion. So they need to be able to share this. And when they hit share, it's going to send a code to them that they can open the view up on their smartphone when they have our Home View VR app. So that they can have that on their phone and show their friends and family, or send the app and the code to their friends and family to get their buy-in on the plan that they've chosen. So that share is very important. You want to make sure that whatever you offer, you give them the opportunity to share it with other people or share it on social media. Sharing it on social media as well gives you that instant marketing too. So never, ever leave off the ability to share. You'll notice in the floor plan that we've provided that some rooms don't have a plus sign in it. What does that bathroom look like? What does this bedroom look like? You want to leave them with some questions. If you answer all their questions in the visuals they provide, then there's no reason to interact with you. You want them to ask you questions. And to do that, I highly recommend using chat. You'll notice over here in the right-hand side here, I can chat now with one of our people. And I can say, this is Chantel. Oh, I'm just going to say this is my name. So I'm going to say Chantel. And I'm going to start the chat. And my question is, hi, I am wondering about creating 360 views. But yours could, I'm wondering about the Declan. So when I hit that, that goes over to someone monitoring those chats. So if you know from your Google Analytics that Tuesdays at 9 o'clock in the morning are when people are looking at your site, you should have someone monitoring the chat so that they can answer, interact. If you don't have that chat, you have no idea who is on your site and what questions they might ask unless they call you. And that would be something that a lot of people aren't comfortable doing. They want to be able to look and ask some questions. So here I am, and I've got an answer back up. Giving them the opportunity to interact with you without any restrictions or hesitations is great. If they're not here, so after 5 o'clock, our chat sessions shut down. But that allows them to leave a message. And when they leave the message, I get their email or their phone number, whatever they provide. They have to provide one or the other. And then I can chat back to them as well when I get back into the office the next day. But using your Google Analytics and knowing what time people are looking at your site, have somebody there on the ready. We use live chat. You can see that here, powered by live chat. We don't use any robotic chat. It's always someone that you're talking to because we want to have that great ability to chat right with you. So when we're looking at all of these plans, and I'm just going to go back to that 360 site and get back out of the Declan. When we're looking at all these plans, how did we generate them? How did we create them on this site so that they're available? So the villa, the Declan, the Stouffer, where did those models come from? I'm going to take you into Envisioneer to show you what we did to create the visuals that are available here. And from there, we'll be able to show you how to bring those right back up. Okay, so I'm going to come in here to my Envisioneer. Here in Envisioneer, I've brought up that Declan plan. So here's the model. So we can see that it's using stone walls and wood siding throughout the home. When you create a model in Envisioneer, I'm going to put this down into a 2D view. You want to evaluate that model, and I'm just going to zoom in on it so we can all see. We've got the garage and the kitchen and living room areas. When I'm creating the visuals to put up on my website, what is important? What rooms do I feel that the consumer wants to see? So as a homeowner, what rooms are very important? And when I have that information, I'm going to create a camera in that view. So down here we have 3D cameras. So I've drawn the floor plan, and now I say I want to go into the kitchen. So I'm going to click the camera that I created in the kitchen because everyone wants to see the kitchen and the views and how it flows with the rest of the house. It's important to a home buyer. So when I'm in here, those 360 images that I was showing you, the one at the front door as an example, once the camera is positioned in here, we can then pan around that room. So this little tool down here called Look Around looks around the position of where I'm standing, where that camera is positioned, and allows me to look around the room. So again, I'm going to pull slowly. So for those of you that are on a slower internet connection, you can still see this happening. From here, it allows me to look around the room. This is exactly what happens when we're creating the photorealistic images for the site. We're basically taking a camera position and building 360 visuals of that around that camera so that people can come in and see exactly what that kitchen is going to look like. So just simple 360 views. When they have these views, what they can do is tell it what time of day it is and where they are in the world, so it'll cast down the appropriate shades and shadows. So it comes from a view like this which is very static type of view where it doesn't look photorealistic, to a view that you can create that looks more realistic, where you have shades and shadows. And the imagery that was put into our 360 views up on our website looks even more realistic. To get them looking very realistic, we come up here to View, Render Panoramic View. What Render Panoramic View does is it takes that camera view and then it starts to create photorealistic images all around in a 360 camera. So it takes individual pictures and then it seams them together at a very high quality rendering so it looks photorealistic. What helps it to look photorealistic is the materials that you're using in that room. So you can see that we have Carrara marble on the countertop. There's a piece around the fireplace. Those two textures, those materials that we're using, when we create that 360 image, are going to appear glossy. They're going to have a sheen to them, as they would if you appeared to them. And our faucet, being a metal, is going to be reflective, as is the bronze area in the interior of these sconces. Every material takes on their photorealistic quality. So if I go back out to our sample site and pull up the view of those 360 views that we are creating, I'm going to click on the Declan again and go into the view of the kitchen so that we can see once we've taken that view and created those cameras and brought in the photorealism and put on the materials, as I pull around this room, you can see all of those materials and what they're going to look like. So you get those shades and shadows and the lights turned on and get to see that flooring and how it's going to finish and the glossiness of that Carrara marble with the reflections coming in from the window and all of those reflections coming off of the fridge as an example. So taking it from a view in Envisioneer, where you can walk through and plan things out, to creating those 360 visuals that allows them to look photorealistic and good visuals on your website, is just from coming up here to View and telling it that you want to render that panoramic view. The materials in the home, the lighting in the home, and there's various rendering settings to say I want a high quality, the best quality that I can get, or I'm just doing a rough view, I just want to see how everything looks, to a low quality. All of those settings are available in there. So when you do post them up to your site to create those visuals, you get them automatically looking as best as they can. The power of having these visuals be a BIM model like they are here in Envisioneer is that you can follow design trends. So as an example, when changes occur, when the color beige turned, everybody wanted gray, and now everybody wants navy, as those colors change, you can very quickly update your model. You don't have to keep it looking like it was done 2 years ago. Every time a major change happens, you can update those materials to be reflective. So as an example, we're looking at a beige sofa. Along comes a new color trend. People want to change the fabrics on their sofa, and we find out that purple velvet is just the next big thing. Everybody wants purple velvet sofas. You can come in and change the materials on that sofa so that they become purple velvet. So that when I look and see my model in the show homes and re-render them, I can have a purple velvet sofa in there. So people that are design savvy will look and say, ooh, I like the purple sofa. You know, everything in the room is evaluated. I know you want them to look at the materials you're going to build with, but equally as important is staging that home and showing current design trends. So you want to make sure that you have materials in there that are on trend and that you're using the latest furniture as well. All of the furniture is available in the catalog, so you can place in different interior furniture and different interior lighting so that you can always keep things fresh. And we try to keep that catalog fresh. We also allow you to import different objects. So if you find a sofa built in 3D out on the internet, you can bring that in and use it as well. Also important with allowing people to customize and change things is perhaps they want to create a room in here off to one side. You want to give them those options. So I'm just going to click on this fence as an example, and I'll say select all similar, and I'm just going to move them out so that they're off to one side. I'm just going to pick move it out so we can make room for a room on the side. And then I'm going to pick this, select all similar, and I'm also going to say move and move this whole fence over. When I have those items moved over, I'm going to insert a new room off to one side, giving people the option to add in rooms. So I'm going to come back to my ground floor. And with this plan, someone has picked it, but they've contacted you perhaps through chat on your website and say, I want to add in another room off to one side. What I've created, and you can see it over my catalog panel to the right, are what we call groups. They're options. So someone might want a side sunroom. So I've got this side sunroom attached to my cursor. You can see I'm just trying to drag it into the space now. And they want to connect it in here off to this one room right off their kitchen. And they've got this side sunroom coming in now. And I just left click to insert it. Now that that side sunroom is in there, if I analyze that model and get my project estimate, everything to do with that side sunroom now becomes a part of my model and my estimate. So as you're designing and adding things in and out, you can also get that instant quote if you put pricing attached to everything as well. So now I see all of the items that go into making that home because it is a BIM model. And because I added in that sunroom, I get their added materials as well. So at the very bottom, I can find out everything that I need and get the price quote for that. So when you have a standard plan, work with your clients, show them up on your 360 website how to use them, but then give them the opportunity for options to add on to that too, so that they can see this might not be the perfect plan for them. They might want to change some things. And if you allow for that, allow them to add in with options. The options save you a lot of time. I would have had to individually insert every wall, window, the sofa, the ceiling fan. But now that I have it in there, it's in there. So I can, again, place a camera into that room and see what it's like to look at in my new sunroom. This could be another 360. So if you want people to see the options that you have, build them as a group, save them so it saves you time to build them up if this is a popular grouping of elements. And then you can show them what it's going to look like if they add that on. Another way that I use options is for staging the home. Like I said, putting that extra effort of putting the sofa in and nice current on-trend furnishings is important so your plans look on trend. And people like them. They're not lost in, oh my goodness, there's no furniture in here. I don't know what it would be like to live in this house. I have furniture layouts that I use. So you can see over here the furniture layouts. You get the visual down below. So when I lay out a room, I can stage it very quickly. I insert this group and move the furniture around because I know that's the furniture that I want to use the most. I have bedroom layouts that I can use as well, just to show those different placements. You can also see that I have this Fireplace Bookcase. And that one allows me to insert that very quickly into the house. So I'm going to go back into our 360 views, get back out of the Declan and just go to 360. And I'll show you how to use that image of that fireplace, but also be able to insert it into a model. So back out here at our sample site, someone comes up to the site and says, I want to see the villa. I need 3 bedrooms. I need 3 bathrooms. 3,800 square feet fits. Here we have, because it's a 2-story, the 2 floor plans, the ground floor and the second floor. Again, look how we've left off the ability to see those various rooms. You want them to ask questions. I'm going to click on this view right here. This view right here will bring me in and allow me to see that room. There's that fireplace bookcase. I use it quite a bit in all of my different views, and because I have those views set here, I can very quickly drop that in. I've created that as a group. There's the bookshelves, there's the fireplace, and those bookshelves flanking either end. Because I use it a lot, I can quickly set it in. All of these extra little knickknacks that you see that make it look like a home can also be added into that group. So when I bring that all in, it becomes part of that 360 view that I'm creating very quickly. So when you need to get these 360 views out quickly, when you need to get new plans up on your site to show that refresh, that you're always adding something new, think about using the groups to do that for you. You can always change the materials. So here you can see that I have the wood finish on that group. But if I go back and come back into Envisioneer, you can see that that original group was painted. It had a painted finish. So when I placed it in, it was painted. And then when I brought it in, I added materials to it. So those materials can be the wood finish. So although it's quick, you can always make them look a little bit different on all of them because you don't want every single home that you have up in the 360 showing the same things. I changed the materials, totally different look and feel to it. There it is. And then as designs change and new materials come up, maybe I'll start painting this navy because navy blue is a hot color right now. And if I have that hot color in there and people can see that, it instantly attracts them because they like what they're seeing. So make sure you take advantage of seeing those views and putting them up on your site and remembering share and remembering to chat with those as well. All of those create the visuals that you need. Back in Envisioneer, every view, every camera view that you create can be one of those 360s, as I said. When we're creating that plan view, and if I go back out to our site and look at these plan views, that's just a 3D camera looking down. It gives them that dollhouse view down, bird's eye view of what it's looked like, ceiling stripped away, roof stripped away. What does that ground floor plan look like? Or what does that second floor plan look like in this particular plan? In Envisioneer, all we do is create a camera for that. So if I'm going to go to this 3D overview camera as an example, I can rotate and fly around my view. So I'm just going to bring it up and around to get myself looking up over top of the plan itself. So creating that view of the floor plan. And then all I have to do is strip away the things that I don't want to see. So if I don't want to see ceilings and I don't want to see the roof or any other elements, maybe on the terrain, I can just click OK and get rid of them. And then I've got that dollhouse view that I can create fully rendered again. So I would take it through that same process. Instead of a panoramic view, render 3D real view. This view, just rendered, is the same type of view that we have out on our website with the clickable buttons on it. I'm going to take you back out to our site and show you how we did this. So I know a lot of questions are, okay, the visuals, I see how I can create those in Envisioneer, but how did you create them? You'll notice up at the top, and you won't normally see this on our Envisioneer site, this is just my WordPress access. This is just a WordPress site. WordPress has many plugins. So when we're looking at just the 360 site and looking at, 360, we're looking at that 360 site, and I had that search. That's just a plugin. It's just a search plugin that you can put in. Live chat, being able to chat with people, that's just a plugin that you can put in. And when I look at the Declan as an example, when I have this page called the Declan on our back end, I can edit that page. And when I edit that page, it'll take me in to look at the back end of that. And I'll give you a sneak peek of what we've done to create that. Basically, what we've done is mapped out all of the views from that floor plan and allowed them to add different media with it. So on the back end, we can see the views. So here I am. Here's this view. I've got a camera right where the dot is, and this is the 360 view that I'm sharing with it. So all of that in the back end is just image coordinates and the content that I put it on the back end of a WordPress site. So you can create those very quickly and easily with WordPress. For those of you that aren't familiar with WordPress or are uncomfortable using that, what we give you when you create these visuals, so in Envisioneer, I tell it to give me render a panoramic view. When it does that, it sends it up to a place on our website and in our app. And I'm just going to slip over here. When it sends out that message to create that 360, it sends it to our app. And you can download the HomeView VR app either in the Apple App Store or in Google Play. That image, that 360 image is sent there. You open it up under My Projects and you can share it. What you want to do is you want to share the HTML snippet, and that will send itself to your email address. So in creating that site, that's exactly what I did. In Envisioneer, I created a model. From that model, I shared a 360 view up. From there, I grabbed the HTML snippet to my email address, and this is what appears. I copy that address to my website so it can view that panoramic view. So as an example, if I just click on this Smart Envisioneer panoramic view, that will take me out to a web address where I can view that 360 view. So just clicking on that brings you back to a website, and here it's loading itself in for me, of that 360 view. So this smartenvisioneer.com site is just where we store those views for you so that you can get that HTML snippet. So this is an ensuite of that villa plan that we were looking at. Just grab the snippet of it. And that snippet is what allows you to save that onto your website, right as I did there. Once you have all of those views and all of these things shared, that creates that really good visual site where people can search for a home. People can look at that home and get the 360 visuals that you've created for them. And they can see those inspirational sites. So you want them to have this good experience, looking at good elevational views that get them excited about that plan, giving them more information about the plan so they know exactly what it has in it, and allowing them to search for a plan that is relevant to them. Remember to always include the chat. When you're not there, we get the ability to type in and leave a message that gives them their email address so you can interact with them. Another point, and I always want to stress this, is when you're creating these visuals, leave the opportunity for discussion. So if I click on this Declan plan, I want to be able to see the plan, but also have questions of what these other rooms look like. I hope that helps you to understand how we created this sample site for you to help you create your own virtual showroom, and how all of that information can come out of Envisioneer because it's a true BIM model, and the importance of being able to update that view, update that model as you need to as trends change, and instantly bring them back up to your website so you can keep it fresh. So instead of having illustrations done, you can always have these created and change them on the fly as you need to. What I'd like to do now is answer any specific questions that you have about creating these visuals. In the GoToMeeting console to the right, you will find a chat portion. And in the chat portion, you can type in any questions that you might have about building 360 sites and the information that you see here. So if you'd like to type in your questions. I'll be able to answer those for you. So I'm just going to look at your questions now. The views on your site all show just generic blue skies. Can that be actual site location views? Great question. So if I look back here in our 360 site, I'm just pulling that up for us. When we look at that 360 site, all of the visuals here have blue skies. Very good insight. Glad you noticed that. Yes, you can change that background. So if I look back here in a front exterior here of the Declan, we can see that blue sky. If I right click on this view and go to Scene Properties, this is looking at the overall scene around the home. And you can see that it's just a picture, this image called Ocean Skybox. A skybox wraps itself all the way around the image itself. So as I tour around and look around outside, I'll still see blue sky. Alternatively, what you can do if you don't have a skybox is just use a 2D image. So that 2D image, if I look at that, and I'm going to go look at different ones, can be a site picture. So if you wanted to have that front elevation with the mountain background or a wooded forest or what might be behind the actual site where you're building this home, you can bring in that 2D image so it becomes the background and people recognize it as that neighborhood. So yes, absolutely, you can bring in your 3D views and have them be the background of the sites as well. Someone's just giving a shout out to GoToMeeting and the platform for it. Yes, GoToMeeting is wonderful for doing presentations like this. Think about using it as well for being able to show your clients. You could do an exact presentation like this as well, talking about show model homes and what you're doing in this pandemic to be able to make it safe for people to view homes. Use GoToMeeting. It's a great opportunity to do that. Next question. How often does the catalog of furniture change? Another great question. So we talked about putting in all of the furniture and staging the home. And you can find all of that material under our interiors tab. So if I pick on furniture, I'll be able to see furniture in the catalog. We try to update these every month in our newsletter. You may see there's BIM catalog content available. So every month we create new blocks that we think are relevant and that people would like to use, and that you can update your catalog with those. But I think when we're looking at trends around the world, because I recognize people from all over the world in our webinar today, and some of you stayed up very late according to your time zones in Australia. Thank you for staying up this late. You might find the furniture there might not be what you would have wherever you are in the world. So that's why we give you the opportunity to import objects so that you can show them, file, import objects that you bring in. So I could bring in a sofa that I find out on the internet. There's some really good 3D objects that you can bring in so that you always have the latest and greatest furnishings in there. We do try to update with our BIM catalogs, but you can always bring in your own content too. Next question. How do you make your trees look so real? My trees just look fake, and I think it kind of ruins it. I would agree if they look fake. Also, if import a picture, whether that's actual view from a living room, how do you know to keep that view clear? It seems I lose the clarity when it goes through the windows or glass door. So first of all, how do I make the trees look like trees? I'm going to go back out to 3D, our front exterior. The trees themselves can be done in two different ways in Envisioneer. We have under landscape, the plant encyclopedia. These bring in flat 2D billboards of a tree. So they're good for when you're first laying it out, but they don't give it that photorealistic view. What I would rather recommend is under exterior accessories, we have plants. So I can bring in tree number 1 here. And tree number 1 will look good when you render it. It's got the leaves in there, and you can see if I bring that up close, the bark looks very good. So you want to have realistic trees going in. So potted plants here. So this one would go in the interior. See how photorealistic that looks? That's because these are 3D trees. The difference between the 3D trees and the billboard trees is the 3D trees are actual 3D elements, so they're going to look better, and they're bigger. The file sizes behind these are big. So when you're building out your models, if you're working on a computer that can't handle large file sizes, most computers can. I mean, we've taken giant leaps in computer technology, but these trees are big. They're big files. You're bringing in at least a meg with every tree that you import. Whereas the 2D billboards that we offer are very flat and very small files. So take advantage of the 3D trees. The backgrounds. When you take a picture for a background, make sure you're taking a high-res picture. So when I'm sitting in, I'm going to go back into the living room here from the kitchen. When we're looking out and seeing the background here, you want to make sure that's as high a quality as a background that you can get. Because if it's a low-res picture, it's going to look like a low-res picture. And if I go into our scene properties, the ones that are the highest res are the ones that are a 3D image. The ones that we've created as skyboxes to wrap all the way around them. Those have been created at very high res. So you're going to want to make sure that when you create those images, that you're creating them so that, I'm just going to take the cloudy sky, as high a res as you can. Next question. How accurate is the estimate and drawings for something with many parts, like an aluminum railing system? Good question. So if I'm looking at something, how do I know it's accurate? I'm going to click on a wall as an example here and look at its properties. Every element that goes into the model has a quantity tab. What the quantity tab allows it to do is to be quantified. So this 2x6 wood siding wall, we want it to be quantified. It's included in the quantities. As an opposite to that, if this was an existing wall, I would uncheck, don't include it in the quantities, I don't want to count it. But this is a brand new wall, I want to count it. So how do I know I'm picking up every single material? So when you're looking at something like an aluminum railing, you know the length of railing that you're going to have. Each one of these products on the right-hand side are what we call assemblies. We've assembled these materials so that we can get their quantities every time we draw this 2x6 wood siding wall. So it'd be no different if you're creating a railing and you want to make sure you count every baluster, every post, every clip that's part of that aluminum railing. When you create these assembled items, each one is calculated by a formula. So if you know that for a length of aluminum railing, that every 6 inches you need to put in a baluster, and that needs a post cap at the top of it, and it needs a clip, then you could create a formula for that. So it's length divided by 6 for 6 inches. If my length is done in inches, and then that would tell you how many that you need. So if it's length, every 6 inches, I need 2. So it would be length divided by 2, or be divided by 6, and then I'm going to times the whole thing by 2. So length divided by 6 times 2 is how many clips I would need. Every single item that you want to quantify, every time you draw a railing, every time you draw a wall, every time you draw a floor, you want sheathing, you want joists, you want rim board, you want screws, you want adhesive, subfloor adhesive, all of those things get assembled in with the product that you're drawing so that you can quantify them every time. Those formulas can be bang on. You can even have a waste factor. So that formula that I typed in, I could put it in brackets again and say times by 1.1, 10%. So I want a 10% waste factor put on that as well. So because we allow you to define those formulas and base them on length or area that you have for that particular element, you're going to be very accurate on how many things that it's counting for you. And when you're drawing out the floor plans and the working drawings for those, you can cut sections at any point. And you also have the ability, I'm just going to go here to worksheet view, to draw in any minute details that you want to. So I can draw lines, circles, and arcs to show those little details that I need to as well. You can also import PDFs and CAD files. So if the manufacturer of that railing has details up on their website of how to put them together, and you have to include that for your working drawings to get your permit, you can bring those in and use them as part of your drawing as well. So you can get very accurate in your working drawings and the estimate that you're creating with the software too. Let me go back to my questions. How do you create the uneven transition from hardwood to the honeycomb flooring? Good question. And let me show you that. Good eye. I'm going to zoom around here and look at the honeycomb flooring. So right in here. So if I click on this honeycomb flooring, can you see what we did? Can you see that these points were created of that floor? And this floor was created underneath it, matching those points too. So when we created the floor, it was floor by picking points. We picked the points around where we wanted the floor to start and stop. And when we put on this honeycomb floor, we picked those same points again. A little bit of a task there, but I think you'll agree the outcome looks really good. And for this hardwood floor, see how this one is off right here? Once you do that, you can cut an opening. So once the floor was put into this entire room, an opening was cut around the shape of the honeycomb flooring. And then the honeycomb flooring was placed in around that same shape. So this is one piece of honeycomb flooring right in here and then around that. So yeah, just a little bit of a trick there that you can put it in. And because it's put in that way, you get the accurate amount of how much flooring you're actually going to need on that. For the floor, because it's cutting around like this, I'd put a big waste factor on that as well, 10 or 20%, to make sure that you're cutting it in the places that it needs to as well. A good eye on that. Good question. Next. Someone's going to call Cadsoft for Envision Your Cost. So this will allow you to, when this webinar is over, what we're going to do is we're going to send you a follow-up email with a link to the recorded class. So today's class is recorded, and it's going to go up on a YouTube page, and we'll send you a link to that. And in there, they'll send you links to download trials if you haven't tried the software yourself, or different educational classes for those of you that already own the software as well. Someone's audio is going in and out. Again, because, you know, right now during this pandemic, everybody's on the internet. The stats are astounding of how many people are on the internet at one time. So I understand that this might be not as, could have been a choppy performance for some of you. So that we have recorded it, so you will be able to watch it again later. Could Envisioneer make a 3D pine tree BIM to add to the catalog? And also, is there a way of raising the background picture? Because sometimes it sits too low. We will be adding more trees. We've had a good conversation in-house about trees and making them look as real as possible. So I'm glad to let you know that we will be changing that. As far as the images themselves, so if it's sitting too low, what you have to do is to raise that image up when you're creating it. So in something like Photoshop, raising the image there. I believe we have a tech sheet on that, so I will make sure that I send that tech sheet out to you. When drawing in Cadsoft, are you drawing full scale, or is it defined as a certain scale, like a 1/4 inch equals a foot? Great question. So when we're drawing these models, if I come up here to View Manager, we are drawing our models at a definite scale. So here my model, you can see, is done at a 1/4 inch equals a foot. But that could be any scale that you want it to be. So if you wanted it to be a true 1-to-1 ratio, you could have that so that that model is drawn as large as it's going to appear. When you transfer the views from the model onto worksheets, if you were going to use these for your permit drawings, those sheets can have a defined scale as well. So my one floor plan sheet here, you can see, is also a 1/4 inch equals a foot. When you transfer that over, you have the ability to scale the view into that environment as well. So you're drawing at a specific scale, but if you want to keep that at 1:1, you can certainly do so as well. Okay, next question. Can you show how to do the sides of the island, that waterfall marble? Yes. So let's take a look at it and understand how do we create that waterfall. Because of those of you that are using Envisioneer, you know that our countertop is just a flat surface. So we can see that this is a piece of surface here, and this is a surface here. So what we've done, and if I look at the properties of that surface, you can see that it's a member. So we use the member command. Some people think that the member command, and I'm just circling around it on the design board here, think that that's meant for 2x4s, 2x6s to be used for framing. But anything in your model that you want to use for a different case could be a member. So right now we're using it as the side of this waterfall. So this waterfall was given a size 3.5 feet tall by 1.5 inches thick. So if I wanted to change that to be, let's say, 3 inches thick, see how it got wider? And when I click OK, that gets wider there as well. So to create that waterfall, we used a member for the side. And then this could be a countertop just on top of it, like you normally would with our cabinets. Or you can use the surfaces command for the countertop. And the surface allows it to be any shape and size that you need it to be. So it can be going out on different angles if you need it to be as well. So with the waterfall, use a member for that. One thing I love about Envisioneer is the flexibility of all of those commands so that you can create different design details like that. Okay, let me go back in, look at our next question. How do you create your own skybox view of your site? Skybox views have to be created in something like Photoshop. So skybox, I'm going to right click here, scene properties, the background. So when we're looking at our model, what am I looking at as the sky? That's our skybox. Skyboxes are very specific images created. You would create that in Photoshop. We do have, again, a tech sheet on that. So I will send you that tech sheet about skyboxes and how to create your own skybox. Because it's not just an image, as you can see, it's got this plus sign, and that helps to make it create all over the entire view that you're in. So I will make sure that we send you that, that white sheet on skyboxes. I did. Thank you there. It's good to see you. I get a lot of requests for standing seam metal roofs. What would you recommend for that? Okay, let's go back outside. And I'm going to change my view to the front exterior. And I'm just going to tilt this down because this view already has a roof on it, but we've turned that roof off. So I'm going to come back down here to visibility and turn back on the roof. And then I'm going to rip off the roof here, hit delete, and I'm going to put a new roof on. Roof by perimeter. And with the roof by perimeter command that I'm picking, you can pick any slope. So I'm just going to say a 4-12 metal roof and left click on top of this home. And that will create the roof. It's sitting low. But with the standing seam roof, just wanted to profile this to you, it's a material. Okay, so when I'm looking at that material, you can go out on the internet and find the exact material that you want. The beauty of the materials that we use in the software is that they're JPEGs or bitmap images. So you can take a digital picture, even from your smartphone. The quality of smartphones is amazing now and what they can get for camera views. You could take a picture of that and feed it in. So this image, this roof 2 image, if I edit that material, it's just a JPEG, just ivory roof JPEG. So you could select and find a new JPEG that you want to use. and then bring it in. We have different quality settings down below that you can see, and there's a whole webinar on that. But it allows you to say that when I put this roof on, this metal roof on, that it's going to be slightly, just slightly specular. So it's going to give a little bit of a sheen to it, maybe a little bit of reflective quality to it as well. So you can play with that. So when it's a rendering or a panoramic view, it looks exactly like that material. So look for that texture that you have. We have a few textures out there for this metal roofs, but you can find so many more out on the internet and be able to bring those materials in as well. Great questions today, everybody. You're keeping me on my toes. I think that is, what size should the tile set be? Okay, so for this material, when you create a texture, you give it a size. So this texture right here that I'm showing has to have a size set to it when you bring it in. So whatever you're taking that picture of, so here's that metal roof texture. When I bring that in, I have to give that picture a size. So the size of that piece of metal roofing is 6 foot by 2 foot. You want to make sure you get that size right. Otherwise, it's not going to look realistic. So if I said that tile height was 6 inches by 6 inches, it would look very, very unrealistic when I put it in. So the size of that tile height and width is the size of the picture that represents that piece of material. So think of ceramic flooring as an example. You might have a tile that's 1 by 1, and it's also available 6 by 6. So when you insert that material, you could put it in and bring it in as a 1 by 1 tile, but we also give you the opportunity in mapping here to change that and override that default size so that it's a 6 by 6 tile instead when you go to use it. Okay. I'm apologizing. I'm trying to get to all your questions, but some of them, GoToMeeting doesn't do a good job of showing the questions really big. How do we apply bumps to brick or siding materials? Another good question. So the question is, when I'm looking at this stone, it looks like stone. And when I come out to view that visual, I want it to look like it's got bumps and jagged edges to it. So it looks like actual stone. So that's called a bump map texture. So if I look at the properties of this wall and go to its appearance, its exterior surface, we can see is this material called Last Chance stone. It's a nice JPEG image. When you create that Last Chance, it has a texture to it, that JPEG texture, but it also has a bump texture set to it. So when I look at bump textures, what they've done is taken a copy of that texture and they've created this normal texture to it. So they've stripped off all of the actual colors to it and gave it this magenta purple color and then applied it to it. If you can't get a bump texture, sometimes you can't, we can give you a bump scale instead. So instead of using the texture, you use the exact same texture and give it a bump. I'm going to go to a box here so you can see this happening. So when I create the bump texture here, what it's doing is it's bumping out a copy of that out and in. So you start to see those mortar joints. You start to see the actual texture of that material. So when you're using things like brick and stone and anything that's got a rough finish to it, make sure you use a bump texture if it's available, or not, we give the ability for a bump scale to make sure that it's got that really good image behind it. We have a whole webinar on that, and I can send you a link to a class just about materials and adding that bump texture into it. Okay, looking at next question. Can you do a rendered dynamic cutaway? So a dynamic cutaway, I'm just going to edit undo here on our model to get rid of that ridiculous roof that I put on as an example there. When we do a dynamic cutaway, that means that we're stripping away a portion of the house. So under view, you have dynamic cutaway. And dynamic cutaway, I'm going to say cut it from the front of the house. And as I drag this down, this little pointer here, part of my house starts to disappear. So it's just going to update. I probably have to come quite a bit down for my model to actually reach my model here. When you create these dynamic cutaway views, it creates that image. I'm just trying to get it down to a point where we're actually cutting away. And with that image of the dynamic cutaway, so we can see part of my model disappearing here. Let me just try to create that again and click OK. So I'm saving my model halfway cut away. If I come up here to View, Render 3D Real View, I can render that view. So you're going to have inside, outside type of view going on. And you can render that or render a panoramic view of that. So cut the dynamic cutaway and then render that view so that you get that halfway in, halfway out. It's kind of like a section view that people can see. So dynamic cutaway, and I'm just going to change that back to none. And then you can create that as well. I think we might have had a screen lag there, sorry. View, dynamic cutaway, front cutaway, show it where you want to, how deep you want that cutaway section to be. And it's actually deleting part of the model, not permanently, just the view of it as you cut away through here. And then once you get that cutaway done, you can go up to View, Render 3D Real View. So yes, those will cut through. Okay. And that seems to be our last question for today. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I hope it helps you to create the visuals that you need to create that visual website so people can tour your homes and like they were touring an actual model show home. We want them to have that ability to do that online, especially in situations as we all deal with this pandemic and are working from home in lots of cases. And people are fearful of going out to actual show homes at this point. Give them that opportunity on your website through the tools that I've shown you today. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. I'm just going to put up a little thank you card there. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today for the presentation. I hope you have a fantastic day. And if you have any questions, we will follow up with a webinar. Thank you. That includes a link to watch today's class again. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.